somehow. We will bend like a bow and never break. Our fathers came here and they lived and died here, and we ain't moving nowhere. Big mistake, 'cause we ain't giving up no mountain, we ain't giving up no tree, we ain't giving up no river that belongs to we. Not one blue sake, not one rice bread, not one rice, not a bit of grass. We love the open country of the Rupununi and the Essequibo. Take time on night, though we may criticize it, this is our home, we love it.
Good morning, and welcome to Budget in Focus. Today is day 3 of the budget debates, and we've been talking with persons who have already spoken throughout the 2 days, and we're going to continue to do so today. We started out today with a powerful presentation from MP Vince Roy Jordan from region number 5. And of course, yesterday we ended, but we did not get to speak to all of our presenters yesterday, but of course we're going to catch up on that now. So much was done yesterday, so much was said. The presentations have been happening. We have been seeing really awesome presentations from our MPs where the facts are being put out there, and of course from the other side we're just seeing rants, as we call it. With me this morning to start our budget in focus is our last speaker for yesterday's budget presentation, which was day 2, MP Maureen, Philadelphia. Welcome.
Good morning, and thanks for having me. Thank you.
It is our privilege to have you here. I must say the budget presentations that we have seen so far has been really good coming from the opposition camp, and yours was no different last night. You are an MP who is responsible for in Region 4 and primarily on the east coast of Demerara, and you dealt with quite a few issues there that after you spoke, we saw them going into pains to try to say different things, but they can't be the facts as I would have it. You started to talk about, they're talking about progress and in numbers, and the numbers, however, do not necessarily translate to what the people want to see. And you stated that you stand, that's last night, I'm quoting from your speech, not for the sake of opposing, but to advocate for fairness, justice, and accountability. That's how you started out last evening.
All right. I chose those words because I recognize it has been happening and it continues to happen. Regardless of how much the PPP government tried to say they're doing for Guyana, we continue to see the disparity between the green and red villages. And so while they may be giving a whole lot to the region, you look at fairness and accountability and transparency. Monies are allocated for specific agencies and or projects, but when you look at the quality thereof, and that is when I say accountability, I mean that because we cannot use certain words, and so that was the most appropriate term I could have used at that time to bring out the word. What is the word? Corruption. I'm outside, so I can say the word, but I couldn't use it last night. So that is why the most appropriate in my feeling was corruption. Now you find, let's go to, I'm going to start with youth sports and culture. The director of youth is now the sitting member of parliament, replacing Siraj Prasad. And he, as the director of youth, while he may have been promoted, I would want to use that term, his tenure as director of youth is not one in which you would want to say that you're impressed. So I do want to believe it's the same he's going to bring to the parliament. And of course, I saw him there after my presentation. He rant and rage what they normally does. One of the things he said coming out of I'm dealing specifically with him. One of the things he said, which they always talk about, they use Gaisuku as a pawn, as if to say that APNU, PNC destroy Gaisuku. What he said last evening is that his life was directly affected by the closure of estates. But let me say this. My life as a young child growing up was directly affected too, because the PPP in the leadership of Jagdeo closed LBI and other estates. As a matter of fact, PPP closed 6 estates. They behave as if only one ethnic group work at those estates. I'm an Afro-Guyanese. My grandfather worked at LBI estate. I live with my grandparents and I was directly affected as a result of the closure of LBI estate. So if you want to come here, let fairness and accountability and balance prevail.
You made a quote from one of Buju Banton's songs.
Yes. Oh,
he
yes.
said, "Who can afford to run will run, but what about those who can't? They will have to stay." And I'm sure you're pointing this because we know that a lot of persons, while they talk from a different level because they go wherever they go when whatever happens. But the ordinary man has no choice. Let's talk about that.
Certainly, certainly. In my 2022 budget presentation, or 2023, one of those years, I had an entire, if I would want to say, verse from Buju's song. And this year I decided just to use that piece because it resonated well with the people of Region 4 East Coast. I'm responsible for that. When you go and you talk with them, they sing from the one songbook. The reality is they don't have that they can carry themselves and children on vacation. They don't have what it takes that they can go places. They have to stay and live under the economic hardship that the PPP has caused us. While we may want to say salary has been increased here, salary has been increased there, a 10%, 9%, and an 8% just cannot suffice. When we compare the cost for goods and services and commodities, nowhere this can cushion that. So when I speak using the language of the ordinary man on the street. Bearing in mind though, that trueness and one's experience more than often, those who are lyrical, they put it over in their song. So when we listen to them, we understand that these are words coming from a person who feels it and who live it, just as how the people in Region 4 and Guyana in extension are living the hard life that the PPP government has imposed on them.
You highlighted in the health sector, basically there was an increase in the budget allocation from 267 million to about 349 million in 2025. And, noting that it may be a step in the right direction, but, there are issues that plague the system. I know you're speaking to Region 4. We see places like Tamari, that's outside of the East Coast though, talking about what is happening at the health centers. And I have visited some health centers myself, and the complaints are grand. While there is so much preparation for other things, they are not seeing the basics that they need in healthcare, provision so that they can properly care for persons visiting there?
The first thing I want to start with, we have witnessed droves of healthcare providers, nurses, and doctors leaving the shores of Guyana in search of a better life wherever it's offered. And so that's the first. Then we have healthcare providers who have not been, if I may want to say, trained in customer service. So they don't know how to treat their customers, the citizens of Guyana who come to these facilities seeking services. Because of the shortage of staff, we have long lineup, long wait, and so persons get frustrated, they get agitated, and they ask questions, and they may tend to react. But more than often, these service providers get out of themselves and treat our citizens as if they don't have a right to ask questions. Then we have, I want to touch on C.C. Nicholson Hospital. That's a gift. An overseas based Guyanese that reside in London, who's an healthcare provider, doctor by profession, recognized the East Coast had a need. And so that hospital was a gift to region number 4. But what has happened? The PPP continues to neglect that facility, offering services at other places that they're not providing persons from that vicinity to have. And so while they may be spending, it's now 349 as relating to what was there last year, 3/4 of that money is given to infrastructure. We recognize that last year they would have built 13 new hospitals, but that did not change the present situation of the health crisis. So when I speak specifically to these issues. Basic drugs you cannot get. Basic drugs you cannot get at these facilities. And then we have our senior citizens who would have toiled and helped to build this country will have to go and wait for long hours to get their regular monthly checks. Then you have health centers that don't have potable water, sanitary block not working, and all of these kind of things. So what they have to do is to develop an inventory where they have regular checks, if you may want to call them rangers or whatever term you want to use, or health whatever, health visitors, whatever term you want to use. So you have an inventory. It will tell you, well, okay, we have these facilities along this area, and twice per week we're going to have person coming on this corridor. Maybe once a week we're going to have persons on going on that corridor. So when you do things like these, you have an understanding of what is plaguing the system and those that have quick fix so that you can fix them. So when they have so much money being spent, again, accountability and proper implementation and all of these things remain a crisis. It remains a crisis.
You talked as well about the education system, and I know that is your baby. And citing the same things, the budget has increased, but we're seeing lots of things. You talked about the Numprel Primary School. Nursery, sorry, which last year I believe they started, and it was supposed to be opened in September, and to date, that is not done. Let's talk about that.
That primary school, nursery school, sorry, was built last year. It was in the 2024 budget. That was there to cushion between Enterprise and Melanie. And what has happened? In order for that school to be peopled, they tried to, let me use the term, pull teachers out from other institutions who has a desire of going closer to home. But while that was done, the school is still not operable. And I do believe it's as a result of some logistical arrangement. In my view, these are things that, again, it's an easy fix. The school is being built. You know it has to be peopled. You have to get accessories to outfit the institution. let that be a part of your total projection in terms of the finances for
Yeah.
the accessories to outfit the institution. Having teachers to people the institution, again, I don't see that as a crisis because we had graduation last year at Cyril Potter College of Education, and I must tell you, while you had person graduating, some of them were only placed at the institution January of this year. So I still want to believe that there are still teachers who graduated last year who've not yet been placed. I know one may want to argue demographics, put person closest to where they live, but again, if we are serious about the future of our children, we are going to put systems in place earlier rather than later. They have the situation where you find monies are given, of course. Region 4 is decentralized. It falls under the Ministry of Local Government and Regional Development. And so when monies are allocated, it is significantly or woefully small in order to satisfy the needs of these institutions. What the Ministry of Education sought to do last year is to provide $4,500 per learner, student, and or child of every institution. So if your school has 50, that is multiplied by $4,500, whatever figure that is. Now that money is only to provide materials for curriculum delivery. The schools administrators still have to depend on the region to take care of the physical infrastructure, accessories, buildings, and all of that. And again, if we take a walk along the corridors, we will understand why our children, our students are underperforming. If the environment does not lend itself as a homely, welcoming, and friendly environment, it tells on your entire being and you react differently. Again, I touch on education because I recognize that while we want to or attempt to focus on our attention on special need, the services being offered is woefully inadequate. Let me say this. I'm going to use my Sarah Brown voice. 592 is not Georgetown. Georgetown is not Guyana. All the special education services provided, they're centralized. What about the outlying regions? If you live in region 3 or region 4, probably you can come to David Rose, and those places.
Correct.
What about those who reside in region 8 and region 9? So if they are challenged in one way or the other, and they cannot get into the mainstream, the regular classroom, which they do, the teachers, we may want to say that the teachers are trained. But let me say this. When you go through Cyril Potter College of Education and you're trained, you deal with not the actual case. But when you're in the classroom and you have to deal with the actual case, it tells a different story because you're now faced with it. When I was a young classroom teacher, I had a child, and I can remember vividly the teacher that taught me at nursery school. I taught alongside her. And so she said one time, look, I can't deal with this. I wasn't trained for this. I can't handle it. Now, because the ministry recognize they are human beings and the rights of the child give every child the right to an education regardless of. So it's integrated. They have to be a part. Teachers are trained.
Yeah.
But they are not adequately trained, in my view, to deal with those cases. They are not. And I can tell you, because of them not knowing, they will not be able to help that child to reach where that child needs to. Then that is the reason why I said there must be intentional programs geared at satisfying these. while we have programs, there must be an home, school, or home community relationship
Yeah.
so that when the child leaves school after the teacher would have given and the child goes back home, those at home can work along with. When the child goes out into the community to play, persons in the community do have an understanding and they show that care, that love, that respect. And so when we do that, it will be a micro system, so everybody is involved. There are one theorist that I love to use, Yuri Bronfenbrenner, who talk about the ecological system of human development, and he dealt with this specifically because of special need. And so when we say special need, we have to understand, we have to move the tentacles outside of Georgetown, giving every region that opportunity to cater for its citizens. I am passionate about special need.
Yeah, and that's good because in a country like ours, there is not enough emphasis put into that, and we allow these children who have so much talent to fall to the wayside because we don't have enough policies and programs everywhere to cater for them. So I'm happy that you are able to bring that out as well in your presentation, because these are things that as a government that ought to be looked at. As we wrap up, because I do believe in another minute or two, our next speaker will take the floor in the person of Miss Nima Flu Bess, who will be dealing with youth sports and culture. So as we wrap up, what is your sum up of this budget that has been presented?
My sum up of the budget is that there is numbers on paper, but the number has not transcend to improve the lives of the people of Guyana. And that's the hard fact. That's the hard fact. Persons are still the same way they were 2020 when the PPP took government. 4 years later, 5 years later, their lives has not been improved. As a matter of fact, if I want to be nice and fair, it has worsened. It has worsened because goods and services, the price has gone up, it has skyrocketed, and the cushion that they give you, you cannot sit on it. You cannot sit on the cushion they give you.
Well, thank you very much, MP. Again, your presentation was wonderful last night. There is a lot for food for thought, and we hope that, at this stage, the debates, they try to actually stick to what they should be doing rather than the views out that we're saying, and people not even telling us their
Correct.
plans
Anything
and
about the
programs.
sectors.
But as we say on this side, and we've heard a lot of the MPs re-emphasize, it is their last budget,
Yes,
because the people
yes.
of Guyana will ensure that they do not continue on to this. So they'll view some the other side next year.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much,
Do have a good
MP.
day.
And to our viewers, please stay tuned as we continue to keep the budget in focus on day 3.